Welcome to this Old Firm special on PLZ Soccer, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on Twitter. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Roughie and Gabriel Antoniazzi are here with me, getting ready for the big one. Rangers against Celtic in the fourth round of the Scottish Cup at Ibrox. Really looking forward to this one. Roughie, as they say, the best Old Firm game is the next Old Firm game.
Yeah, I think the supporters are all missing them. They're fantastic spectacles to be at. Even as a spectator, they're great. They always throw in something a wee bit special. Obviously, the warm-up to it is always really, really good. And then on the day, we usually get something to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon to Michael Climby, who always joins us. Lots of people. William Beck as well, joining us on PLZ Soccer. Niall Kane, as ever, Niall's a 100% supporter. Nicky Twig, James Brown, so many people. One of the most important people that we have joining us is Gabriel Antoniazzi. He's out there. Roughie, I hate to say this, but it looks as if he's got his Hibs Casuals jacket on from 1987. I'm only suggesting that at the moment, or he expects a bit of trouble out there. Gabs, there's just no fans. It's just all police.
All police. Yeah, we've just had the buses come in. I was waiting for the opening gag about my clothes today. I'm impressed with that one. Hibs from 1987. No, as I say, no fans here at all. There is a very large police presence. The buses have just come in. Fourth Old Firm game of the season, the 424th meeting between these two great rivals. It's the 52nd time they will meet in the Scottish Cup. Historically, Celtic have the upper hand in this fixture, winning 25 of them. Celtic have not been beaten by Rangers before the semi-finals since the early 1960s. However, of course, the Gers are favourites today. You can get them at around 11-8 with the bookies, while Celtic are 9-5. If you fancy it going all the way to penalties, that's 7-1. If you're going to bet on a goal scorer, the favourite is Odsonne Edouard to open the scoring, 4-1. Alfredo Morelos is 5-1.
Yeah, Alfredo Morelos scoring and finally breaking his duck in the Old Firm game in that 1-1 draw at Celtic Park. I mean, listen, the great thing about it, it's all about predictions. People are flying in with them. Darren Field says 2-0 to Celtic today. Fiona Docherty joins us. If you want to give us your view on that, you probably watched all the Scottish Cup games from yesterday. Hibs are a goal up at the moment on Stranraer. Fiona says 3-1 to Rangers. It's the most eagerly anticipated game because, quite simply, Roughie, what's at stake is Rangers continuing their domination in this fixture this season. Rangers with a chance to chase the double. But for Celtic, it's maybe a chance to save face, to set a marker down for next season, to try and defend their Scottish Cup, try and get 5 consecutive Scottish Cup victories. It's been a long time since they've lost a Scottish Cup tie, Roughie.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter what way it goes today. Both teams are going to come out with a large bit of spin. You know, obviously, if you win it, you're going to be throwing everything out there. Obviously, if it's Rangers, it's going to be undefeated. If it's Celtic, it's a new era around the corner. So the result's really important for both sides. Obviously, Rangers have been magnificent this year, and Celtic are a wee bit better in the last month. From what we've seen for the whole season. But I think it's going to, I don't think there is much between the two sides in a one-off game. It's been shown in the last 2 games, it's been neck and neck. So I think today, I think it could be a wee bit special. I think obviously the pressure's off Rangers because they've won the league and Celtic have got something to prove.
Yeah, so many people flying in with the predictions, lots of people offering their support for their favourite team in this one. Rangers against Celtic, we're on PLZ Soccer. Alan Brown says Rangers to win 2-0. Gordon McCallum showing his support for Rangers. Stuart Ramsey says 2-1 Celtic. Niall Kane says 1-1 with the match going to penalties and Rangers to win 4-2 in penalties. So lots of people still offering us their predictions. Give us your thoughts on who's going to score the goals as well. We will give you our predictions just as we get close to the big kick-off. We're here till 2:15, and that'll allow Gabriel all the time in the world just to settle himself, get into the ground, and of course take his seat in the press box, unfortunately, with the unusual sound of the teams walking out with no fans whatsoever. But the edge is still there in this game. Now, with regards to the managers ahead of this one, Steven Gerrard and Celtic's caretaker boss John Kennedy gave us their thoughts.
Rangers meet Celtic for the 52nd instalment of the Old Firm Scottish Cup style. Celtic have been victors on 25 occasions, but Rangers are rightly favourites here. Spurs boss Steven Gerrard has his eyes set on a League and Cup double, but he knows his team must improve on their recent performances if they are to be victorious.
You can see, and I have been aware that there has been a slight drop-off compared to where we was in the title running. But I think we've almost been waiting for a fixture that has got an edge about it and a real importance about it. And the preparation's been slightly different this week because you can see the focus in the players and you can see everyone in the zone and really ready to try and put in a top performance at the weekend.
The Hoops have been nearly impeccable in cup competitions over the last 5 years, and this tournament is their last opportunity to secure silverware in what has been a nightmare season. Interim boss John Kennedy feels his side are still the superior team on the day. They'll need to be at their best to show it here.
You have to be, getting into the game and hitting top form. So it's promising for us. It'll give us confidence, going off the back of the last game and the little run we've had. We've got scoring goals and we're putting good performances. Players are finding the form as well. So, it leads to a very exciting game. But we know that, especially going to Ibrox and the magnitude of the game, that we have to, make sure we're all concentrated, we're all doing our jobs, and hopefully we come out with a very good performance and result.
The fourth but not final instalment of the Old Firm this season promises to be the most significant, and don't forget, this one will be decided on the day by penalties if necessary.
Yeah, so we're going to get a winner one way or the other. John Scullion says Celtic will win 5-0. Is he being overly optimistic? Darren Knox says Ryan Kent will tear Celtic apart. That's the joy of it all. Everybody is so passionate about this game. I just wonder, though, Gabriel, they mentioned there, and Steven Gerrard alluded to it, they've just gone off it since they've won the league, but they're still a team that nobody can lay a glove on.
Yeah, I mean, they are still 20 points clear at the top of the table. They won the league in early March. It was always inevitable that there was going to be a small drop-off. The intensity was going to come down a little bit. But just with the nature, the style of this compacted season, it's given them almost a recharge. It's a mini season here. Scottish Cup against Cove Rangers here at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago. They were impressive, 4-0 victory. And then you've got this week. The quarter-final will be next week. So they really, really are set on winning this game, winning the Scottish Cup and completing a double, because there is the fear that if they are knocked out today or don't win the Cup at all, it's not going to peter out their season, but perhaps it will be what could have been, considering their Europa League exit to Slavia Prague as well. So Rangers are very confident heading into this one. But Celtic, as we know, have that belief. They've won 4 Scottish Cups in a row. They're looking to break their own record by making it 5 Scottish Cups at this campaign. They've won 21 consecutive Scottish Cup ties. The last time they didn't win, 2016 semi-final at Hampden Park. Penalties for Rangers.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. Apologies for Gabs's earpods bought by Fisher Price. They just keep I hate those pods, Roughie. I don't know about you. Why can't they just go with a conventional microphone? They do my head in. He's kind of going tinny and then come back. But hopefully we'll get it sorted out with him, because it's always good to hear from Gabs. He's live at the game, getting ready for the big kickoff and looking forward to it as well. What about the players? Well, Borna Barisic has mentioned this week, slightly miffed at John Kennedy talking about Celtic still have the best team. Stephen Welsh just off the back of signing a 4-year deal, certainly looking forward to this one. Here's what the players had to say about this Old Firm encounter.
Scoring a winning goal in an Old Firm is always big, but knocking your rivals out of the cup is a whole different ball game. Just ask Joe Miller or Peter Lovenkrands. This tie promises to have added spice after last month's 1-1 timid draw in the league, with Rangers fullback Borna Barisic adding flame to the fire. Croatian thinks that John Kennedy claiming his Celtic team are still the best team in the country is the biggest joke he's heard all year.
I had a video interview before, and then I heard, and I think that that's the biggest joke I've heard this year, because they didn't win against us 3 games and we are 20 points in front of them. So
keep an eye out for Alfredo Morelos, who recently broke his duck against the Hoops, whilst James Forrest may have to settle for a place on the visitors' bench due to injury. Stephen Welsh will start, and he's been a shining light in an otherwise dark season at Parkhead and was recently rewarded with a new contract. Welsh thinks his team can take confidence from their previous meeting in March.
Celtic Park the last time we were excellent. We were on the front foot, creating chances, should have scored. 2 or 3 goals in the first half alone. So yeah, it does give us a lot of confidence going into the next game, knowing that we can perform like that. We just need the goals to come, and hopefully we don't concede in at the other end, which as a defender you pride yourself on that.
When the 22 players take to the field, the war of words will matter little, with both teams gunning for the Scottish Cup quarter-final.
Yeah, and as Gams mentioned there, 22 players on the park, but who's going to be selected by Stephen Gerrard and John Kennedy? As far as Rangers are concerned, is it the strongest he has available, Gabs?
Pretty much, other than James Tavernier and Ryan Jack, who are long-term absentees. We can have a look at what we think the lineup will be now. Of course, we're waiting for the actual confirmed 11 within the next 10-15 minutes, but we think it'll go Alan McGregor, the stalwart, in goal. Nathan Patterson has been outstanding since he came in for captain James Tavernier back in February. Connor Goldson and Philippe Hollander likely at centre-half, with Borna Barisic at left-back. I think he'll go Glenn Kamara, Stephen Davis and Joe Aribo across the midfield. Now, Davis and Kamara pretty much always start. It's just that third midfield slot we think will be given to Aribo. He's been very impressive last few months, and of course scored in the Old Firm in January the 2nd. 1 goal it was from Aribo. Kemar Roof could start on the right-hand side. Perhaps that could be Scott Arfield or Yanis Hadji. We know it will be Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent, who has really hit form lately. 12 goals and 13 assists so far this season, and is reportedly the subject of a £50 million bid from Leeds United that'll be coming in this summer.
Yeah, you always get that now, Roughie. Just a day before or an hour before an Old Firm game, you get a player linked with a move away. It's called trying to destabilise or mess with their head. It's as simple as that. Brian Roberts says, my ulcer's been playing up all morning. I can't wait for kickoff. That's what it does to you, this game. There's no cure for it, Brian. You just have to settle back, make sure that this is the best advice, Roughie, that I've ever been given. Just sit back on your couch, make sure that all other bits of furniture are out of the way, even a glass or anything that can be thrown at your television that could damage the television, Roughie. It has to be out of arm's length. And of course, if you have kids under the age of 18, Roughie, it's advisable that they go into a separate room which has noise reduction in it. It's the best way to look at it.
Yeah, it's a substitute for not being at the game. So I think that will treble as the game goes on, depending which way it's going to go. And obviously, nearer the end of the game, you actually could be behind that couch, and just peering above it to see if your team's going to hold out or they're just going to win. So no, that's what this game brings to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat Owen says, why is it just stories, Peter? Leeds want them. Yeah, they absolutely do, but it's just the strategic placing of the story, Pat, that is the case here. It's one of those situations where every now and then you start to get a little story that comes out just to see how players will react to it. It's classic Old Firm day here in Scotland. That's what happens with it. I'm sure he's well worthy of 15 million. Gordon Strachan reckons he's worth 25 million. Who knows? Let's see what Leeds, if they do come in with an offer, are willing to pay. Gabs highlighted the side there that he thinks is going to take to the field. Roughie, for Rangers, the reason why they're champions, I'm looking at the goal scoring. He's mentioned Kent with 12 goals, Morelos 16 goals, Roof with 14. Geez, Roughie, Tavernier's get 17.
Yeah. I mean, apart from all that, Peter, it's a settled side. It's the same goalkeeper that's been there all year. It's near enough the back four, apart from the full-back. The midfield's played nearly every game, and up front, they all know each other inside out, and that's where the stability in that Rangers side is where the success has come. And we've also discussed it as well. If one or two aren't, playing top-notch, then the next two that come in have got everything to prove, and they haven't let the manager down either. And that's why Rangers have been so successful this year, that as a group, they have performed whenever they needed to.
Yeah, I can't tell you Hibs are 3-0 up against Stranraer now and absolutely cruising. Martin Boyle getting the goal. Alex McCahill has said, I've got a sheet of plastic in front of the telly. Let's hope it's enough that can let you see the telly, Alec, in the first place. Gabs, what about the form of Rangers going into this one?
Yeah, well, as we said, it did suffer a slight dip after they won the league. They have picked it up recently. They're impressive against Cove, obviously expected to win that one against League One opposition. And then I was here last week against Hibs as well. They were good for periods of that game, but they did start to slip towards the end. Jared said they need to go up a level. And who could forget, it was only 4 weeks ago, the last Old Firm, and that was only 3 games ago. It's been such a strange scheduling. We had so many games so close together. Now it's so spaced out. But Rangers, they are starting to hit a bit of form right now, and Gerrard will hope they can go up another gear at the tail end of the season.
Yeah, what about the expected Celtic 11, Gabs? We're getting close to them announcing that team.
Yeah, we're expecting to hear in the next 5-10 minutes. This is what we think the Celtic team will be. Now, a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 diamond, it's quite fluid. Scott Bain in goal. This is the back four that Kennedy has preferred in his 5 games. John Joe Kenny, the Everton loanee, Stephen Welsh and Christopher Ayer partnering each other at centre half. Diego Lexalt referred to Craig Taylor at left back. In midfield, captain Scott Brown, one of his last ever Old Firm games for sure before his move to the northeast. Callum McGregor, the ever present, with David Turnbull, who's scored 8 goals since he came into the team in late 2020. Ryan Christie likely to start ahead of the injured James Forrest. A shame for Forrest to miss out after coming back into the team from a long-term injury. Odsonne Edouard, as ever, will lead the line with Moy Elyounoussi, and he is Celtic's man in form with 3 goals in his last 2 games.
Yeah, I think he's bagged 18 goals. Edouard, who has been really not at his best this season, Roughie, but he's still got 21 goals.
Yeah, and he missed a few games as well during the COVID, just in January there. And I have to say that although he scored these goals, he hasn't done the spectacular that he did the year before, that we can see he can do. But he's a big-time player, and I think Rangers obviously will have to watch, what he's about today. But I think the difference in the two teams is, again, Celtic's back four. It's a mixed match again. It's not a settled back four the way Rangers are, and that's a big, big thing when you go into these games. But apart from that, if you move forward, I think Celtic have got the players in there, the midfield, the youth, the McGregor. And for me, Turnbull, I can't stop talking about him. And if you get a chance today, just watch every opportunity he gets, maybe 20 yards for goal. He's quite happy to have a pop. And 9 times out of 10, he's not far away from hitting the target. So I think he's going to be a massive player today. Elyounoussi, obviously, has scored some goals, scored in the last game. But I think we'll just have the first 20 minutes is always important in these games. Obviously Rangers have got the home advantage, so nothing careless for Celtic. I think that's what they'll be saying. No mistakes the way they usually let themselves down.
Yeah, Gabs, if you look at the Celtic forum going into this one, it certainly would be a strong case for John Kennedy. He's managed to bolt the problems at the back. Rangers are the only team to score against them in the last 5.
Yeah, Kennedy has managed to shore up the defence, which was such a problem under Neil Lennon. Just 1 goal conceded in his 5 games in charge. I can bring you the breaking team news from Ibrox behind me. Both teams have just submitted their 11s. Celtic are exactly as we expected. So we can have a look at that lineup again. It's Scott Bain, certainly not Scott Brown. It's Scott Bain in goal. We've got John Joe Kenny at right back. Stephen Welsh playing at centre half. He's, of course, impressed in what has been a tough campaign. He's been rewarded with a new 4-year deal. Christopher Ayer, his 23rd birthday was yesterday. Will he be here next campaign? We'll have to wait and see for that. He does start the centre of defence, as does Diego Lexalt. He has started all of the Old Firm games this campaign, one of only 3 players to do so. Another one is Callum McGregor. He partners captain Scott Brown in midfield, and it will be Brown's second last ever Old Firm. Ryan Christie comes into the team along with David Turnbull. Turnbull will be hoping that Steve Clarke is watching and he can put in a performance that will give him a chance of making that Euro 2020 squad. And up front, it's Elyounoussi with Edouard. Elyounoussi, of course, scoring last month with a cross from Odsonne Edouard. Moving on to Rangers, it's one change from the team we predicted. There's no Kemar Roof, it's Scott Arfield instead. Arfield will play in the midfield with Davis and Kamara, which means Joe Aribo starts on the right wing. Alfredo Morelos, fresh from breaking his duck last month, leads the line. Ryan Kent, 12 goals in his 12 goals this season and 13 assists, should I say. Nathan Patterson does start right back. He's, of course, got that possible ban looming, but he's another we'll be hoping Steve Clarke is watching after such strong performances recently. Centre halves, Philippe Lander, Connor Goldson, Borna Barisic left back, and in goal, as ever, 39-year-old Alan McGregor.
Yeah, and just based on the 2 teams that Gabriel has brought to us, that's the starting lineup for Rangers and Celtic, Roughie. He did mention Scott Brown, the Celtic captain there. I think he's at this point now where he's possibly 8 games away from his focus of attention turning towards Pittodrie as an Aberdeen player and a coach up there. If they get past Rangers, if they get to the final, he can look towards a maximum of 8 games, but it could be the end of his quest for silverware, the last piece of silverware on offer as a Celtic captain today.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the Celtic supporters are still trying to get their head round why he went. I think a lot of them were hoping that he would stay as a coach and probably a bit player with Celtic. But obviously, he's seen new horizons as to look ahead and his future. But yeah, it'll be a monumental game for him today. If he can get to obviously the next game and then on to the final, it'll be a fantastic season for him. To leave Celtic with another trophy. And a medal, obviously, as a captain. So it's a big, big game for him. I think he's always got a big part to play in these games. And just looking at Rangers' selection there, I think they've identified that Celtic's midfield has got a lot of legs in it. That's why they put Arfield in there. So these games are generally won in midfield, and I think Scott Brown will have a big part to play in that.
Yeah, the midfield battle and out on the flanks as well, Gabs, is where we should see some of the real excitement in this game, because Arfield will be there to try and thwart Celtic. But I like Aribo. I think he's got a great left peg on him, and he can cause all sorts of problems cutting in onto it, Gabe.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Joe Aribo prefers to be that third midfield man rather than the right winger, but what he does offer is an extra body he can tuck inside, and if Celtic do line up in that diamond formation that we expect, that extra body can really help Rangers. Scott Arfield's an interesting one. He comes in and out of the team quite often, but Steven Gerrard does like picking him for the big game. He, of course, scored in this fixture, I think it was May 2019, a 2-0 victory. Fantastic goal from Arfield, but he hasn't really been in the team since his performance at home to Slavia Prague, where Gerrard put him in for the big match, and he got hooked after about an hour after not his best performance in a Rangers jersey. So it'll be interesting to watch Rangers number 37, Scott Arfield, today. The midfield battle for me is where it'll be won and lost.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. George Griffiths says 3-1 to Rangers. Some people surprised that there's no James Forrest in the lineup. That injury, that back problem, stiffness in his back is obviously just put paid to him starting this match. And of course, lots of people offering us their thoughts on who they think is going to win, who's going to be the match winner for you on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Give us your thoughts on that. We're getting ever closer to the big kickoff in that. We've given you the teams. Roughie, as far as the encounters and the two teams going head-to-head over the last 3 games, we've still got this one and, of course, one more league game. You just have a look at those last results. It hasn't started well for Celtic this season. Goldson got the double. And, of course, Rangers 2 wins and 1 draw in these encounters, Roughie.
Yeah, I think obviously Celtic won't want to look at the early ones. They'll cast their minds on the last 2 games. Although they lost at Ibrox, I think Celtic thought they were unfortunate in that day. Again, Alan McGregor came up with some sensational saves, and obviously the own goal at Ibrox was disappointing for them. But the other game at Parkhead, they won each one. There wasn't much between the two sides at all. We can't get away from it. The Rangers have been the better side for the whole season, but Celtic will go into this game and look at a one-off occasion, and that's what they'll be focusing on. But the players really do have to turn up and turn it on today to beat a fantastic Rangers side who haven't conceded many goals at all at Ibrox, and that's going to be the hard one for them.
Ian McTaggart says 2-1 Rangers. Claire Mitchell reckons that Rangers will win by 2-1 as well. There's lots of predictions coming in this one. Certainly, I don't know about the overall exposure of this game, Roughie. I mean, everybody has to obviously put their money up there to get the rights to the game, but I think it's a real disappointment for me that it's not as easily accessible when you consider the circumstances and what the fans have had to put up with. It's a tough one, Roughie, that having to try and get this game is very, very, very limited indeed. Difficult for fans to subscribe to one game that they really want to watch.
Yeah, it is disappointing. There's no doubt about that. It's disappointing for the players as well, because they would rather have their fans in the ground with the atmosphere it brings to these games. Sometimes it can lift you up, sometimes it can't. But it's a game that doesn't matter what circumstances and when it is and what it's in. Everybody wants to see it. So from that aspect, it is disappointing for a lot of people.
Yeah, Michael McManus says 3-2 to Celtic after extra time. John Murphy, 6 yellows and 3 reds in this one. I think he's expecting a feisty affair. The strange thing is, hopefully they're going to go at hammer and tongs and give us an exciting game to remember in this Scottish Cup tie. It's a strange one. Do Rangers, in your mind, Gabs, have the edge just for that home advantage in it?
Yeah, Rangers have won every single game domestically at home since the start of March in 2020. They were beaten at Hamilton on a Wednesday night, I think it was, just before the pandemic. So, of course, they have the advantage. Rangers will be looking to win this game, and they are favourites. You look at Gerrard's record in Old Firms. It's 10 matches, and he's won 5 of them, only drawn 1. So it's a positive record, considering how far behind Rangers were when he came in. That is really impressive. There was one thing that I could say is for sure. There's nothing certain in football, but what we can expect is a low-scoring game. Only 2 of those 10 games have had 3 goals in it. The rest of them have had less than 3 goals. So don't expect a 3-3 or a 4-1, anything here today. It will most likely be a tight affair, especially considering it can also go to extra time. One thing that Celtic need to keep an eye on, though, is their set pieces. Rangers' last 5 goals in this fixture have all been scored from a dead ball.
Yeah, well, if ever you were on a high, Roughie, going into a game and you were really looking forward to it, Gabs has certainly put me on a downer now. Just when we were expecting goals, Roughie, Gabs has just given us all a custard pie. We were all getting ready to be sitting there shouting at the television, and now it's flat as a pancake. There's going to be maybe
I'd happily
1 goal,
have a custard
Roughie.
pie. If
One
it's
goal,
5-5,
Roughie.
I'd take
Maybe.
all the custard pies, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing, Roughie. I can't remember. In fact, I think I have to go back to Ibrox again, Roughie. You'll remember it was the early 80s, the last time we had a real howitzer where it ended with 4-4. Do you remember that one, Roughie? I think Ted McMinn was playing for Rangers, and Cammy Fraser, if my memory serves me correct, scored. McCoy scored his usual Old Firm goal. I think Cammy Fraser got a double. He's a former Dundee player who ended up playing for Rangers, and Murdo McLeod hit a 30-yarder to equalise to make it 4-4, Roughie.
Yeah, I remember. It's not the first time that Murdo's done that. I think he did it at Parkhead as well. And I think that was a 4-2 game or something like that. But no, that's what we want to see. We want to see spectacular goals. But sometimes a 1 each or a nothing each can be as exciting. Obviously, with the ball not hitting the back of the net, we all want to see that. But no, I think we'll be on to an end-to-end stuff. I don't think either of the 2 teams will sit in today. Both of them will go out and try and win the game. And I think that'll make it exciting.
Yeah, Gabs, what's the reaction overall? Bobby Madden, the man in the middle, to make sure that this one goes according to plan. Hopefully he's not the centre of attention.
No, Bobby Madden, of course, one of the country's most high-profile and well-respected referees. You'll hope that he has a good game. Red cards aren't shy in this fixture. There's been 4 in the last 6, and especially with the prospect of possibly having extra time, you wouldn't bet against it. But yeah, you'd hope. This season, I do feel that the refereeing in the Old Firm has been of a high standard. I remember Odsonne Edouard went down in the last Old Firm, and the referee gave an indirect free kick against him for diving. Perhaps it wasn't a dive, but it wasn't a penalty. I thought he got that decision right, the referee on the day, and hopefully we'll see that again. Just you talking about that Old Firm in the 1980s, of course, I can't quite remember that one, but it just got me thinking, what are your favourite Scottish Cup Old Firm games, you two? Are those your favourite ones, the 4-4s?
Oh, favourite Scottish Cup games and goals. Well, yesterday, Roughie, we were talking about some of the best goals I've seen on the programme. We were talking about it on Friday, I beg your pardon. By the way, Alison Sarah Carroll says, Peter, could you say hi to Gabriel from me? So that's Alison's paid her full subscription up in the Gabriel Antoniazzi fan club.
Good afternoon, Alison.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. Oh, yeah, speak to your fans. As far as the goals are concerned, Roughie, I mentioned Davy Cooper's classic goal in the Dryborough Cup final, and of course Henrik Larsson's in the 6-2 game. Cup games, Roughie? Special cup games that you remember between the two sides?
Not off the top of my head, Peter. You generally get caught up in, the whole game, and there's nothing really isolated. You think of if one of these goals were to win the game, but the ones that you're talking about were quite comfortable. But you would have to do well to beat Davy Cooper's for individual skill, and the magnitude of that game, to have the audacity to do that, and the ability to do it as well. So no, I don't think anyone could beat the Davy Cooper one.
Okay, I'm going to make Gabriel think we're really old, Roughie. Here's two classic games that I think Rangers and Celtic fans of a certain vintage, Gabriel, will remember. The first one is 1973 that sticks in my mind. I was only a boy watching this game. It was 1973. The game was nicely poised at 2-2. And when the ball came across, Derek Johnston, DJ, headed the ball. It came off one post, then came off the other, was an inch off the line, and the late, great Tom Forsyth just put the ball in with his back stud. And having spoken to Tom not long before he sadly passed away, he said to me, I thought I was going to miss it, but he got his back stud on it from an inch out and made himself a legend in the Scottish Cup final of 1973. And then, I think for all the wrong reasons, sadly, the 1980 Scottish Cup final, when there was sadly a riot after it. But Danny McGrain, not known for his goal-scoring prowess, Roughie, hit the shot towards goal. George McCluskey deflected it, and it went past Peter McCloy into the back of the net to give Celtic a narrow 1-0 win.
Yeah, and I know we've not got any fans in the stadium, but I mean, if you look at the fans' response to these occasions, and the stadiums were absolutely jam-packed, and you could see the delight in both sets of fans when they got their goals. The whole place just absolutely erupted, and that's what we're missing. We're missing the fans in celebrating winners or great goals, and unfortunately it's going to be the same today.
Yeah, I can tell you, Steven says to me, how can Gabriel know about that stuff from 1973 and 1980 when he's only on work experience? they're giving you pelters for it, Gabs, but nevertheless, it's good to have you out there. Although I have to say to you, Gabriel, I mean, you're in a brilliant position with Ibrox in the background. Had, as Roughie suggested, there been fans, the place you're standing right now would not be ideal to stand and do a match report.
No, it'd be erupting right now, and that is the one benefit for us journalists and reporters of being no supporters here, is that you can stand here and you can drive up to the stadium and get a nice sparking space. But we'd pay the price to get the fans back, and we can't wait for it. Just my take on that discussion. My first ever Old Firm I went to was the 2-2 at Hampden in 2016. Rangers winning on penalties. It was the last time Celtic didn't win a game in the Scottish Cup. Barry Mackay's goal that day. Do you remember that? I think it might have been an extra time, 1-1 after normal time. And then Barry Mackay hit an absolute beauty from 25 yards. Tom Rogic equalised, and it went to a shootout. And Rogic then blazed one about 30 yards over the Hampden crossbar, and Rangers went through, of course, beating Hibs by the final, though.
Yeah, we remember that game fondly, Gabs, because Roughie and I were in the press box right next to the Rangers fans to our left-hand side, and when Barry Mackay hit that goal, Roughie, they gave both of us absolute belters. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, Roughie was looking up, and I can tell you right now, Gabs, I was tapping away in my computer, and the computer wasn't even on. They were giving us absolute dogs abuse, weren't they, Roughie? Just letting us know they were there.
I remember that day. Yeah, we were in the wrong side of the press box that day, unfortunately. And yeah, I've never seen somebody trying to type and there's nothing on the screen. It was just something you don't witness very often.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good. All good fun, I have to tell you. Right, good laugh that day. But Rangers that day, 2-2, winning it in penalties, and that prompted Dermot Desmond to go out and get Brendan Rodgers as the manager to turn things around for Celtic. And that, Gabriel, I think, is what some people are speculating on. If John Kennedy were to win that match today and then go on to win the Scottish Cup, does that suddenly put him in that similar position to Neil Lennon, or do you think the Celtic fans will just not tolerate that level of appointment.
I don't think Celtic fans will tolerate it. Not that they do actually get a say at the end of the day. We know that it will be Dermot Desmond and Dominic Mackay, the incoming CEO, that make the decision. I don't think fans will be happy with it, but I've spoken to John Kennedy a lot over the last few weeks, as you have as well, Peter, and I don't think he thinks he'll get the job if he wins the Scottish Cup. I'm not saying he doesn't want it. Who wouldn't want to be the manager of one of these great clubs in Glasgow? But I just think he knows he's got to do the best he can. Perhaps another job for him if he does want to become the number one somewhere else, maybe in the future, become Celtic manager. But Celtic fans seem pretty set on Eddie Howe. Whether that's going to get over the line, who knows? The rumours were rife a week or two ago, but it seems to have cooled. The whole discussion over a new director of football, whether Richard Hughes, who worked at Bournemouth, with Howe comes in as well. We'll just have to wait and see. But even if Kennedy does win the cup today, I can't see Celtic fans warming to him as the long-term successor to Neil Lennon.
No, I think you've got a good point there, and John is a really decent bloke, Roughie, good coach, but I think he's got to go away and gain experience elsewhere.
Yeah, like Gabriel there, I've been watching him in the press conferences, and everyone he comes on, he seems as if he's got a very good educated boy. You know, he comes over really, really well. He's taken everything in his stride. But I listened to comments of Gordon Strachan and Neil Lennon and Martin O'Neill. When you're the manager at Rangers or Celtic, it's different together. I don't think people appreciate, you know, what comes with being a manager at these two clubs. And I think you have to be experienced enough to know what you're going to have to go through, the highs and the lows. He might want to hang about, or the new guy might want him to hang about, you know, and get the benefit of the experience. I just think they need somebody who has been at the top for a while. And even if it's Eddie Howe, I'm sure he won't realise what he's getting himself into, you know, because if you listen to Steven Gerrard, you know, with Liverpool all these years, and he's said when coming to Rangers and the decisions and it takes over your whole life, you know. So I think it has to be somebody with a wee bit of experience.
Okay, we're getting ever closer to the big kick-off. Time for the predictions, time for where we think it will be won and lost. Gabriel, you're on the case first on this one. It's a tough call. Who's going to win it and why?
Right, I am going to go for Rangers 2-1, but after extra time. You know me, I'm sticking with my statistics. I think it will be under 2.5 goals. I think it will be tight. I do think that with James Forrest not even on the bench, the lack of firepower for Celtic coming from their substitutes may come back to bite them. You've got Lee Griffiths on there, perhaps Tom Rogic can come on. But I just think Rangers could perhaps go that one step further in the extra 30 minutes, and I'm going to go 2-1 to them. Ooh, Glenn Kamara to score the winning goal.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, that certainly would get all the back pages buzzing when you consider the week that he's had. Roughie, do you agree with Gabriel on this one?
I'm going to go similar to Gabriel, but I'm going to go the opposite. I also think it'll be one each. I do agree with the Rangers manager that they have went off, not off the boil, but they've dropped a wee bit from the standard that they had been setting for the whole season. I think the European games will be catching up on them a wee bit. The amount of games they've been playing, it's been a long season. And I'm looking at that Hibs game. I keep talking about that Hibs game for last week, and I thought Hibs had certainly chances. And if Celtic get these kind of chances, I think they've got the players that will take it. But I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be one each. And I think it will go to extra time. And I think Edward will score the winner.
Celtic 2-1. Well, at the end of this, 2-1 to Celtic for Roughie, 2-1 to Rangers for Gabriel. At the end of this game, one half of the Old Firm will be out. Hibs have defeated Stranraer. They're through to the next round, and they're certainly one of the other teams in the next round of the Cup that you would consider favourites to get to the final again. But are they going to get all the way there against a Celtic or a Rangers? Well, I did say on Friday that I thought Rangers would win 2-1. And on reflection and looking at all the things that have materialised here, there is no reason to change my mind on it. I think Rangers will win 2-1. 18 games unbeaten at Ibrox, 17 in the league. They've scored 53. They've only conceded 3 in those 18 games. And I think the stats back them up. If you're looking for match winners, I think Kent and Morelos could provide all the heartache for the Celtic fans. As ever, thanks to so many of you for your predictions on this. It's all guesswork, really. You look at the teams, you look at the strengths, you look at the stats going into this match, and then you realise that when Bobby Madden blows the whistle, Roughie, it counts for absolutely nothing, because it could be the first crunching tackle, a major refereeing decision, a mistake, something that suddenly changes the axis on this game, and one team has the upper hand and the other team can't get back into it. It can be that crazy.
Yeah, it certainly can. And when you're part of a team, you don't want any of these things to happen. If you're going to be beaten, you want to be beaten fair and square. You know, there has been a lot of like disallowed goals and penalty claims, and these things do turn games. I mean, let's hope it's not controversial. Let's hope that we're not talking about the referee after the game, and we're talking about the players on the park.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope for a good game. Let's hope that there's not too many people suffering the wrath of Bobby Madden as far as discipline is concerned. And let's hope we get a situation where after the game we'll hear from both managers. We'll hear from Gabriel. Hopefully by that time he'll have bought himself a better microphone. And we'll also get your reaction to it live on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube as well. Give us your thoughts after the match. It's the big build-up. Hopefully you've enjoyed it all the way through to the big kick-off at 3 o'clock. Rangers against Celtic, the Scottish Cup fourth round tie. Who's going to come out on top? Who's going to be the match winner? We will find out, and we'll discuss it with you back here on PLZ Soccer. From Roughie, from Gabriel, from Peter Martin, enjoy the game. Don't get yourself into trouble. Just enjoy it. And remember, it's only a game. It's Rangers against Celtic. We'll see you after it's all finished.